Let me tell you a secret. In practice, it's not always like that. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Angela and I make videos about law school, lawyer life, sometimes real estate, personal finance, and all things in between. So today we're going to be talking about a really highly requested topic, and that is things that law school does not teach you when it comes to being a lawyer. Law school doesn't teach you how to be a lawyer. It teaches you how to think like a lawyer. You guys probably heard that a billion times, right? But people don't really go into detail about like specifically how it doesn't, right? They just say like, oh, law school doesn't prepare you, but they don't say like in what ways. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. In a nutshell, law school is really academic focused. There's very little practical training in law school, and that's basically why it doesn't prepare you how to be a lawyer. The practice of law requires action, right? It's not just learning and the application of principles and rules like law school. Since they get very little practical training in law school, that's the reason why many young lawyers head into the workforce feeling very unprepared. The good news is that the practice of law is just kind of on-the-job training. So I'm gonna give you 9 ways that law school doesn't prepare you how to be a lawyer. As I mentioned before, law school doesn't teach you the practical stuff, okay? How to do basic foundational things that you need to do for your practice. And this is true whether you're a transactional lawyer like myself or whether you're a litigator. There's gonna be foundational tasks that you need to know how to do in order to practice your area of law. For example, as a corporate lawyer, things I need to know how to do is search information about a corporation or an LLC or form a company. Those are some very basic tasks that I have to do on a consistent basis throughout my career, but nothing like that is ever taught in law school. Now, if you're a litigator, there's basic things that you need to do too, like know how to draft a motion or make filings in the court. They don't teach those types of things in law school, so when you show up on your first day and someone says, hey, can you go file that motion in the district court? And you're like, okay, how do I do that? Or, you know, as a transactional lawyer, hey, can you form X company in the state of New York? And you're like, okay, where do I go for that? Because you don't get that type of practical knowledge in law school. You might learn what a corporation is, you might learn what a motion is, but they don't actually tell you how to do things surrounding those items. Next thing is professional etiquette office skills. Now, there are a lot of people who go to law school after they've already had a career, so they've usually been in a professional environment prior to that. However, there's many people who go straight to law school after college, just like myself. So when they show up to day one of their lawyer job, they've never worked in an office professional environment. And so there's a learning curve with that. Preparing emails, being responsive, just very basic office etiquette. A lot of people don't know how to communicate effectively. One thing that I found as a junior lawyer is I needed to learn how to draft emails to communicate properly. So in law school, you do a lot of research, right? And then you present all these findings. But in real life, in real day-to-day life, if the client asks you a question, they don't want a 10-page memo on the answer. They want straight, concise, to the point, and give me the answer. One thing that I had to learn is how to write concisely while also giving enough information for the reader because they didn't do the research that I did, so they're not familiar with what I did. So just skills like that are very much learned skills that you don't learn in law school. Okay, so the next one is huge and probably true for a majority of lawyers is law school just doesn't teach you anything about the type of law you're actually going to practice, right? So there are foundational classes that teach you principles such as contracts or, you know, torts or constitutional law, all those types of things. The law school classes don't get into the meat of what you actually do. So you guys know I'm a mergers and acquisitions lawyer. There's no mergers and acquisition class in law school. They don't teach you how to draft acquisition agreements. They don't teach you how to draft ancillary agreements. They don't teach you anything about running a transaction. So those types of things are very much learned on the job. And this is true for more than just transactional lawyers. And so be prepared that even if you say you become a family law lawyer and you took family law, yes, you're going to learn some principles, but it's not going to teach you actually how to practice that law. It's just not. The next one is business development skills. Law schools put very little emphasis on the importance of networking and preparing for business development. The practice of law is a very client-centered practice. Without our clients, there's nothing to practice. And so it is very important for lawyers to network, make connections, meet people, know how to talk to clients, know how to communicate with clients, know how to just client management and people management. And those types of skills are not learned in law school. It's very much something that you learn on the job. And unfortunately, even as young lawyers, a lot of times those skills aren't learned because you're not as client-centered. So business development, communication skills, particularly with clients and other contacts in your network, are very, very important things that you're just not going to learn in law school. Okay, the next one is negotiating. Okay, negotiating is a learned skill. Okay, that is something that is absolutely not taught in law school. Some law schools do have negotiating clinics, but I mean, not everybody's going to have the opportunity to take that, and not all law schools have them. Negotiating is such a key skill in the practice of law, no matter what side of the coin you are on, no matter if you're transactional or litigation focused. It's a skill that you have to work on, and it gets better with practice, but it's something that you won't get in law school in just its basic core curriculum. Okay, this next one is huge, okay? And it is, law school does not teach you how to think outside the box. And let me explain that, right? Because I do think law school teaches you how to think like a lawyer in the sense of being analytical, critical thinking, thinking of solutions to issues. However, law school is very task focused, okay? You're always racing to an exam or racing to a brief. So you get very focused on one task and then you complete it. In practice, that's just not practical, okay? The check the box mindset is not an effective way to practice law. You must always think about the bigger picture. So let me give you an example. In law school, we learn IRAC, issue, rule, analysis, or application, and conclusion. In the practice of law, there's going to be a big picture matter or big picture case, depending on what side of the coin you're on. I'll go with transactional just because that's what I do. But for example, what I do, there's a big picture transaction. There's a whole deal that has negotiation, document formation and drafting, closing, and post-closing. So it's a whole process. Now, a lot of times as a junior lawyer, you might not be in on some of the meatier types of things, right? So for example, say as the junior person on the deal, you are in charge of the closing checklist and making sure everything gets checked off and ticked off, and then maybe some due diligence. Even if those are your only 2 projects on the deal and you're not working on any other things, the best approach to your role in that transaction is to know everything that's going on in the deal, because it is a full picture. Okay, you don't just focus on your 2 items. You really need to understand the full picture in order to do the best job that you can. And so I think in law school, just the way the curriculum works, we are very task focused. There's a rule, I apply it, and I'm gonna get a conclusion. It's very a check the box thing versus really thinking outside of just that rule and that application of that rule. That's just my own personal opinion, and that's just based on my own experience. If there's any other lawyers watching, please chime in on your thoughts. I welcome your perspectives, because for our future lawyers and law students, they really want to know, they really want to get some insight. So if you are watching as a current lawyer, please chime in and your thoughts about that. Okay, so the next one is billable hours. You guys, nobody in law school talks about billable hours. And I get it that not everybody works in private practice. And so, say if you work for a company, you don't really have billable hours. Or if you work for the government, there's no billable hours. But a large percentage of lawyers work in private practice. And billable hours is something that is very real, very important to private practice. And so the fact that law schools don't touch on it at all, or just talk about how lawyers get paid, is just crazy to me. And then just to kind of piggyback on that is, law schools don't talk about the business of practicing law. Like, the legal profession is a business, and law schools just don't talk about kind of the back office, all the administrative work, the billable hours, the client development, the client service, the customer service. Law school doesn't talk about any of that, which I think is shocking, because the practice of law is a business. Law school does not prepare you or, emphasize law school debt. And I get it, right? Law school debt really does not have to do with the practice of law. However, in order to become a lawyer, many people have to get in a bunch of debt. I just think that there should be some sort of focus in law school about that, and really just counseling on how to manage that debt load. My last sit down video kind of touched on the $200,000 big law salary. But as I've mentioned many times on my channel, you know, the practice of law is not created equally. While there are lawyers out there making $200K as a first year, there's also lawyers out there making $45K as a first year. And those lawyers are still graduating with six-figure debt. So just a focus on financial literacy for lawyers in managing that debt load, no matter what your salary is, would be some good education for law students, in my opinion, because you know, it's real. I myself took out debt in order to go to law school, and I just refinanced my loans in 2020 when I probably, if I'd had better financial literacy, I probably would have refinanced them a long time ago. If you guys are interested in me doing a video specifically about refinancing my loans, let me know in the comments down below. I did refinance with Earnest. I have a link in the description box below that you can check out Earnest and get $200 credit if you refinance with them. Rates are super low right now, so it's a really good time. This is actually the second time I refinanced because they keep going down. And I did it with Earnest each time, but there's a bunch of people out there that you can refinance with. The last thing I'm gonna mention today is that there isn't always an answer. In law school, there's always an answer. In practice, it's not that simple. For example, on your law school exam, you get a fact pattern. Let's take torts. I feel like torts has the craziest fact patterns, right? So you get a torts fact pattern. It's convoluted, it's crazy. There's always gonna be some sort of hints in there. There's always gonna be some sort of facts in there that will allow you to come to a pretty good conclusion. Let me tell you a secret. In practice, it's not always like that. Sometimes there is no answer. You know, there's a lot of times a very gray area. Also, on that same note, in law school, you're always gonna have all the details, the facts, in order to make a good analysis. In practice, it's not always like that. You won't have everything. The client won't tell you everything. The client might not know everything. And so sometimes you're gonna be kind of working with not all the details you need in order to really come to a good conclusion or really move forward. So there's gonna be a lot of research, a lot of strategic thinking, a lot of analysis that goes into a lot of the matters or cases that you're working on because you don't have all the facts. So that's just one thing to be prepared for when you get out there, is that, yeah, there's not always a right answer that just jumps out at you as long as you follow a rule or something like that. All right, you guys, so that's all I have for you today. I really hope you found this kind of brief overview very helpful. Don't forget to check out the links in the description box below. I have a link to Earnest where I refinance my student loans. Robinhood, if you are not investing, sign up for Robinhood, get those free stocks. Sign up for Webull, get those free stocks. I have my website info, my PO box info, everything in the description box below. Frequently asked questions. Y'all ask the same questions over and over again. For my newbies, where did you go to law school? What do you practice? All that is down below, guys, okay? Make sure you subscribe. Make sure your post notifications are on. Like the video. Please comment down below and show your girl some love. YouTube wants to see that type of stuff. That's how they push my content. So I really, really appreciate that. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.